So, good morning, everyone, and say almost good night for Richa, who joined from the US. So, thank you for setting up this call, Tarni. I think that made my job a
Yeah.
little more easier. And so, we are here today, I think, to celebrate and also generally learn from Richa's experience. So, from what I initially heard from Richa, she said, Sunil, I'm finishing PCC in 7 months. I was like, can you come back? So it was quite a how do I say, genuine surprise, saying, hey, wow, that is amazing. That is a lot of effort that goes into the structure of PCC, the training, the hours that you're putting in as a peer, or even with other clients, the mentoring, the recording clearance, the CK, or now the ICE. So that is like a lot of things to establish in 7 months. So I was like very curious to understand and see also maybe understand what drives you as an individual to say, okay, we're going for it, all guns blazing. So I'm really happy that this is actually manifested and we're able to learn from your experience, because a lot of coaches here on their PCC, ACC journeys, and some of us are struggling to get the hours. And yeah, so when I shared my journey of finishing it in, say, the ICC to PCC Delta in 5, people are like, oh, this is amazing. And there were also question marks saying, hey, how can you do this in 5? So I'm sure you've had that experience as well. So I'm really curious to learn of your experiences. And also, maybe just before we actually start, would it be okay if I introduce you, or you want to introduce yourself? I always give the choice.
Whichever way you feel like, Sunil.
I am usually the informal person. So usually, although you sent an amazing bio, I looked at a lot of things. MIT is there somewhere. There's an MBA in there. There's finishing PCC in 7 months there. Banking sector for 6 years. These are things that popped up, which I feel like, oh, that's very interesting. But there'll be a lot more life to your own introduction if you do it. I'm just given the teaser to the others. If you can introduce yourself, I'd be, absolutely happy.
Thank you so much, Sunil, and thank you, Tarini, for setting this up. Thank you guys for joining in on a Saturday morning. So good morning, good evening to whosoever, wherever you are. And it's amazing to be here actually, and it feels surreal, Sunil, as we were discussing, that it's still sinking in that, oh, has it happened? Did I work so hard? And has it all fructified? So yeah, I'm still trying to live with that feeling. So quickly to go on to the prompt of introducing myself. Um, yeah, so it's always a tough job. I don't know where do I start. There have been so many transitions and so many things. Yeah, so I am from, my lovely town is called Varanasi, in Uttar Pradesh, India, and I was born and brought up there. I pursued my graduation from Hindu College, Delhi University North Campus in zoology. And then I moved to Chandigarh, UBS, University Business School, Chandigarh. There I pursued my MBA, and post my MBA, so as a result of my campus placement, I entered the banking and finance. So into wealth management, and then I was a branch head in one of the banks. So I did quite well, even though I never wanted to go into the banking industry, but I think I'm a fast learner and I like new things, learning new things. So I thrived, I got promotions, did well. All of that ended when 2 years back in 2021, my husband decided to pursue his MBA, and he applied to MIT Sloan School of Management and he got accepted. I mean, it was fingers crossed kind of a situation, because he had applied to only one school and he got accepted, so which is a great thing. So we moved to Boston from Delhi NCR. I was in Gurgaon. Now, when I came to Boston, this is interesting because that's how this journey began. He was keeping super busy in his course. It was very intensive. He had a coach at that time, so every student, they had their individual coaches, and that coach helped him beautifully navigate the course. Because this program was meant for working individuals from ranging from 12 to 14 years plus of experience. And most of them were senior executives. So for senior executives to quit their working life, to leave, to uproot themselves, and come to a new country. So, and he had this amazing experience with the coach. I did not know what coaching was until he told me, "Oh, I have a meeting with my coach." I'm like, "Wait, are you playing something?" He's like, "No, this is a different coach. This is not a sports coach." So he introduced me to coaching, and he said that, "You know what? I feel you'll be good at it." So I did not pay a lot of attention. But what I did was, I'm going a little bit into detail because that's like the pivotal thing in my journey. I started reflecting, and actually the coaching for myself began at that point, because I was like, do I want to get into banking again, which I did not like a lot, or should I just see what I really wanted to do? So I liked this field of organizational psychology, coaching, consulting, strategy, and I had suffered the toxicity of corporate life in India. Uh, Too much stress, too much anxiety, and all of it. So I was like, let me go on the other side now, where I make policies, I decide strategies, and I help individuals have a better life in their corporates also. Like, I've been lucky to get a break and to pivot, but if we had not come to the US, I may have just ended up being in banking and like retiring from there. So that's how the pivot happened. I worked with professors at MIT Sloan in organizational dynamics research. And I started applying for my master's also. So currently, and I got accepted. So currently, I am pursuing my master's in organizational psychology, again from a wonderful university called University of Pennsylvania. And so in the meantime, during my admission offer and acceptance, finally, after a couple of years, coaching started making sense. And I started reaching out to coaching schools and all of that. I joined a program in April with Coach Arya and finished, and I did it full time because I knew my master's was going to start in October. So from April to October is when the shift happened. So here I am, a coach, pursuing my master's and trying to get my foot in the door in this industry, pivoting after 8 years of a successful banking career. Sorry, Sunil, if it went a little long, but I got carried away.
I think it was wonderful to see you in the
Thank
flow,
you, Sandeep.
sharing with so much of passion, which I think is very, very clearly evident in the way you're sharing. The Varanasi to Chandigarh, Chandigarh to Boston, banking to now with organizational psychology, coaching. I was like, oh, April to October again is a lot of intensity of work. I'm sure.
Yeah.
So, how was the journey like? I heard your story with regards to how coaching came to you.
Mm.
Uh, but after that, how did it move?
Oh my God. So I can't tell you how stressful and how overwhelmed I was when I started, because I chose, as I said, I chose Coach Arya, which is an Indian coaching school. I did not realize in the beginning that I am finalizing them, but the classes would be at 6 a.m. my time and 5 a.m. when there is daylight saving in the morning, 3 hours. So every week. And people who know me, they know me that I'm not a really good person in the morning. I tend to get better as the day passes. So I would wake up grumpy and thinking कि चलो देखते हैं कितने दिन चल सकता है, right? Let's just see what's going to happen. And I did not realize that 6 months passed. And in the beginning, now when you talk about the journey, so when I started, it was overwhelming. But when I started getting a sense and started doing my tiny recordings, like do the first part, like first three competencies, and then the second part, and all of it, I started enjoying it. And I did it full time, Sunil. I think that's what makes a difference. I didn't do anything at that point. I started my master's only in October. So I was completely and wholly focused into coaching. And I would be involved at least 8 or 9 hours during the day doing something about coaching, either talking about coaching, coaching others, learning something, Or so I'm also a trained co-active coach. So CTI, Co-Active Training Institute, is here in America. So I was pursuing their coaching programs. I got a 100% scholarship there. So they invited me to pursue coaching with them. So that's what my life was. 7-8 months only coaching full time.
Wow. So I don't know of this co-active coaching thing. So that's a new addition to the data that I had. Amazing. So
You said it should be a short bio.
and that's why I let you introduce yourself, because I am also the same category, saying I'm grumpy in the mornings and I get better with time. And secondly, also, like, I don't think I do bios. I don't do PPT,
Hmm.
so I do only stories. And when you let people tell stories, I don't
Yeah.
like the running rule is that they give me the mic only at the last 5 minutes, because I want to close by 5. They want to close by 5. They say, "Only have 5 minutes. कुछ भी बात कर लेना." So that is how things are. So, but very curious to see, like you said, 7 months, everything high intensity, 8-9 hours of coaching on a daily basis. Uh, and I know for sure, once you are into coaching and you see, if you have that passion, things will move. But I think a lot of people, including myself, had starting trouble. So there's a difficulty in, getting those first 10 hours, 20 hours, 30 hours, 100 hours. How did you manage that?
You're talking about the hours log?
Yeah, the hours, yeah, the log, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So as I said, I was into other coaching programs as well. So I got a scholarship from Coactive and also from Certified Life Coach Institute here in the US. So I met a lot of people, not only from Coach area. In fact, Coach area, a lot of people were based in Asia, except one, except two who were in the US and a couple of them in Europe. But mostly they were in Asia. Where I met connections was these two institutes, like where time zone wasn't a big difference.
Mm,
So a lot of connections there. Then I had my MIT community. I was a very, very active member when I was at MIT. I've done like events there. I've hosted events, done a lot of things there. So a lot of people knew me. So when I said that I'm training to be a coach, and if there's anybody who wants to discuss something, there's pro bono coaching available and we can have a chat, a lot of women reached out to me, and we had brilliant conversations. And then I connected with people from the other two coaching institutes. So finding people was never tough for me. And in the same time zone. And as I said, that I was doing this full time. So I would talk to people in the afternoon, morning, anytime between 10 a.m. to 9 or 10. Even when the India people when I would talk to India people, it would be like 10 or 11 at night. So if you see, my day would start early in the morning and then at night. So people was not an issue. The issue was how many hours could I do in a day. So
mm,
some days it would be like 2 or 3 hours, but the other days I think the maximum that I have done is I think 6 or 7. So maybe a couple in the morning, a couple in the afternoon, and then one or two from India or Asia.
mm,
So I coached around 52 people, and 52 or 54 people across whom I managed my 500 hours. Half of them were like peer coaches. The other half were individuals who just needed coaching, who wanted to talk about things, and they felt maybe the first session was good enough and they wanted to continue. So I was like, can we do it for 10 hours? So that is the thing that worked for me. Like I would tell people that, see, if you like it, can we just do it for 10 hours? And people would happily say yes, because they were not paying anything, right? They were only paying in terms of their time. So they were like, of course, we would love to. And they knew that after each coaching session, I was getting better because my training would improve, my training would go ahead, my practice would improve. So this is my biggest tip when somebody asks, how did you do it? I would say, when you meet people, don't just meet and forget. Just tell them, like, if you like it, if you're finding a value add. And not only peer coaching, because in peer coaching you have to coach and then get coached. But if you're getting in contact with others, like normal people who are just here to get the coaching, ask them to give you a time commitment. So that is something that worked for me wonderfully well. And I did, I think, a maximum 20 hours with one person and then remaining 10, 12 hours with others.
wow. So you had an adventure. So 50 plus people, 10 hours ish. No, I asked this.
Not all, not all. The peer coachings would be like some of them would just be like for a couple of hours. We'll meet once or twice, and then maybe the timings didn't match or the chemistry wasn't there. So there were random 1 or 2 sessions also. But then some of them were like 10 hours. Some of them, I think one person was 15, 16, something like that.
Mhm. And in these, 54 plus clients, what was the most challenging part for you? The easier
Oh my
part, I
God.
think everybody will come back and saying, hey, it was amazing. But what is the part that was challenging?
Yeah, that's a brilliant question.
Mm.
So the part that was most challenging was when an acquaintance, I would say, because I coached her for eight hours, I guess. When
Mhm.
she started coming with really deep topics, like concerning her family, then talking about childhood trauma, and I would start questioning myself. Wait, I'm not a therapist, or and I would feel that she is entrusting me with such a big responsibility. So
Yeah.
that's when I felt like, oh, am I doing justice? And then I had a word with my mentor, and I told him how did I go about it and how did it happen, and he was like, you handled it brilliantly well. So that topic did not come for like 2 3 sessions, but when it emerged again, I, like, as we are taught in coaching, I referred her. I was like, I don't know a therapist. I know a couple of them from the US, but you are in Europe. So you might just want to, go to a therapist. And then when your childhood thing and all of those things are taken care of and you have something like relating to what we were discussing before, then you can come back to me. So I think that was the most challenging part.
Hmm. Wow. So I think so you used all competencies. So you used all everything.
That's why the ICE exam, I mean, the exam that they have now was a little easier because I felt like I've lived through all of those.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's the space that even I subscribe to, saying once you've lived through some of these conversations and say situations, it becomes a lot more easier. So if you're a little active
Yeah.
with coaching for some time, when you just go for the exam, becomes a lot more easier. But I'll come to the
Yeah.
exam in a little bit of time. I think we've not yet traversed the path fully of what happened with the hours. So a lot of the other coaches that I do see, they said, I am not yet fully knowing the process. So I will wait for
Mm,
it. There are those pauses that we take because we feel we're not fully there. Did
mm.
anything come through for you like that, or you had a separate mindset?
When you talk of fully aware
As in, like
about
when
the
you're
process,
beginning about the
the coaching.
coaching mindset,
Mm.
the initial say 10 hours, 20 hours, people are like, I don't know the full this thing, so they don't want to how do I say, overcommit and underdeliver, if that's the right word.
Yeah, so I was comfortable during that phase because I was trusting the process. So when my trainers would tell, this is what you're supposed to do, this is how you're supposed to do, you might feel weird, but that's okay. That's a part of the process. So I think that's one thing that I adore about myself. I let go of things immediately when I'm told that, see, I trust you. I have paid you as a trainer to kind of train me. Then there's no point if I'm questioning your moves or if I'm questioning your instructions. So I don't know if I understood your question correctly, but if that's what you're asking, then I definitely let go of all of that. And I was just following what I was told to do. And I would continue practicing the same way unless and till my mentor would come back with the feedback and tell me to improve, add, delete, whatever. And then I would start practicing the other way.
I think you caught the question perfectly, and it is amazing to hear of that space of trust. So I think, and also letting go of some amount of control over certain things and
Yeah.
trusting the process. So the process defines a lot of things with regards to coaching.
Mm.
We don't really have to do much because we are a very subtle player in the game. If not an inactive, we
Yeah.
can't say inactive player, but a very subtle player in the entire space. So trusting the process, trusting yourself around that, saying you will get there, is something that really moves people.
And
So,
Sunil, just to add a tiny bit, I think the coaching training changed me big time. It was a transformative thing for me as a person. I don't know what impact I've had in people's lives or what impact am I going to have, but I can say for sure, even if you want to be a better individual, you should take coach training, and you know how to be a better listener, you know how to be more empathetic, you know how to be a better human being. So I used to like speak out a lot about control, but as I said that I learned that if there's a trainer, I need to let go, and it was during that training process that I started empowering it. I had it in me, but at times my controlling nature would come into picture. But then during coaching, during all of those phases, I learned to let go completely.
oh yeah, I think letting go of that space, letting go of that control, I think
Yeah.
does wonders. And yeah, I think even that's that space, right? So, if you don't buy into coaching, I don't think you can
Mm,
be a good coach.
absolutely. Absolutely.
So I think it's the same with everything. I don't, and if you don't buy in, you don't get into anything for that matter.
Mm.
So that needs to be there. So any other questions that is there from Tarni, Sandeep, Dhanushree, Rahul? Otherwise, I don't want to be running it like a podcast, but rather like running it with everybody's questions and opinions. Okay.
Yeah, what I felt was Richa's story. Richa, thank you. Nice to meet you. Sorry, I'm off camera.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I
Lovely
just
meeting
felt,
you, Rahul.
yeah, I just felt the way your journey was. It's like really inspiring, and to have, heard what you had done throughout your journey, like completely focused on just coaching apart from your amazing stint at banking and, growing over there. And then you realize that why don't I do something that's my heart's
Mm,
calling, and I don't necessarily want to go back to what I was doing. And the way you had also been very open, and you shared about your scholarship and also doing the course training at UPenn. I mean, this is the first time I'm hearing something so profound, and it's really great. So I would definitely like
thank
to
you.
stay connected. Sorry, and I just share my LinkedIn link on the chat box. Thanks so much.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rahul. Thank you. I appreciate it.
So I'm just curious to understand, CLI, Coactive, and Coacharya, they all would have different philosophies and, you know, and on top of that, changing the mindset. So I'm just wondering, how did you manage, all that? That's a very, very tricky thing. I see.
Yeah. Thank you for that lovely question, I would say, because it takes me back in time and I'm thinking about the experiences that I've had at these three brilliant schools. So more than yeah, there was of course different methodology because they were from different schools of thought. They had different ways of teaching. Um, but what I would say is I always took them as tools in my toolbox, like in my kit. And the things that I would learn, I would just be like so surprised, and I would be like, oh my God, aisa bhi hota hai. And this is also how you do it. And then this is how you use metaphors, or this is how you use stories, or that's how you can connect. And of course, there was a big difference when you're learning from an Indian school and then from an American school. These guys, so my Indian schools trainers, they would tell me that you cannot interrupt your client when the client is rambling on and on and on. But the Americans, they were like, oh no, of course you can just stop the client and tell them that see, I'm telling it to you for your benefit. I'm sharing this for your benefit. That I think we're losing the point here. And they focused on where I was uncomfortable, and I was uncomfortable interrupting because that's what we are taught in India, right? It's not in our culture to be rude. And this is like I call my sanskars, that when somebody is talking, I do not interrupt. Unless of course I have something nice to say. I just can't stop that, oh, you've been rambling. But these guys, they would focus on each and every individual's discomfort and that out of comfort thing, and they would like put the spotlight on me and say, she'll be talking and now you've got to interrupt her. So all of these things were different. Now, what I chose to do was learn and then make everything suitable to my style. So I would not, when I've learned interrupting, that doesn't mean I would start doing it with everybody. And I also know that it's doable. Earlier, from my Indian training, I knew that it wasn't doable. It's absolutely no. But now I know that it can be done and there's a way to do it. So that way I adapted things to suit my own style. And this is how I made use of all my different trainings.
Hmm. That's very
So,
interesting. Amazing
so
question.
just a follow-up question,
Mm.
with different schools of thoughts and different philosophies. Um, how, so one is like, our own mindset, how did you like you integrated everything? And then is, getting an approval of a recording, with those different philosophies and okay, so one is that you in our own mind, we are clear that okay, this is acceptable, this is not
Yeah.
acceptable, this can be done, I think same thing I found even in something called leading also, what is leading itself has been such a is like a continuum, it's not like a straight something. So I'm just wondering, how did you all, how did you translate that into a recording in terms of getting approval, acceptance by the institute from where you did it? Yeah.
So I did not, since I had signed up with Coacharya much before I got accepted with the other institutes, because obviously I was not going to pay them those heavy dollars. I've not been earning for last 2 years. So I started with Coacharya, and I had always kept that as my primary training. And the others, I told them that, I'm just here for the learning. You can make me do whatever you want. But the recordings and submissions were only done at Coacharya. So I followed what they had taught, which only revolved around competencies. So I just made sure that all of my recordings were around competencies. And I think even if I added or deleted something like from my own understanding, my mentors were super accepting of the fact. And they said that you attuned yourself to what your client wanted in that moment. And they were very accepting. So that way, I am really thankful to my mentors as well. Did that answer your question, Sandeep?
Yeah, yes, I got that. And and yeah, that is there. So I have another question, based on what you've
Hmm.
said, which is a challenge even. So how did you bring about that change? So one is that you're saying, that you're able to bring about that change, for example, from controlling to a completely coaching mindset,
Hmm.
but that is like so automatic. And I'm wondering what is that would have happened internally in you that would have
Hmm.
happened within a short period of 7 months. I'm also looking
Yeah.
at the time period. It's like, it's like pressing a switch and just changing. It's like
So again, great point. So it did not happen in a switch way, of course, but the majority or the maximum changes I started seeing in myself, uh, one, coming to the US changed me a lot. In India, you are spoiled. You get your foods cooked, you get your beds made, you get your houses cleaned, your clothes ironed. But when I moved to the US, I became more humble as a person, and I started accepting like myself and the house that I am in the way it is. Like I stopped being a control freak there, because if I were to control everything, I would die cleaning, I would die cooking. So that brought about a lot of change. That was one. Now, two, when I got enrolled in coaching and I started learning and I started doing the readings and I started watching the recordings of good coaches, that translated, that changed something in me. And when I learned what listening or empathetic listening could do to somebody, I was like, oh my God. And it had happened to me. I was talking to one of my friends, and in fact, one of my friend's husbands actually, and I'd met him for the first time. But the way that guy was listening to me, and it felt like I was the most important person in the room, and I could totally relate to it when I heard about what listening was, what empathetic listening was. So just giving you an example, so I started connecting the dots. Oh, this is how it works, this is how it happens. And as I said, I was working in the same domain, organizational psychology, organizational behavior at MIT. So I was doing a lot of research. So I started connecting all the dots. Oh, so this is what happens. This is how our mind works. This is how the human psychology works. So when I started connecting all of those dots, it was very easy for me to make all of those changes in myself. And I would definitely say that my relationships, not that they were bad, but they started improving. And it also incorporates a relationship with me. I started being more kind to myself. I started listening to myself. I started acknowledging myself. I was not keeping super high standards for myself, and the same for everybody else. So that changed a lot in me. And also some Rogerian principles, like Carl Rogers. He brilliant recordings if you ever get a chance, and if you've seen on YouTube. So Carl Rogers, coaching Gloria, and his principles are very simple. Like, your client is the most important person to you, and when you're attending to your client, you do not exist. You are just a person sitting there with zero background, zero knowledge, and you only see and hear what your client says. I started incorporating those things. Abhi personal life mein itna nahi hua hai, although as much as I would want, but the moment I enter a coaching session, I become absolutely broken from the outside world, disconnected. I'm only there with my client. At least that's what I try to, and that is getting the job done, Sandeep. So maybe I need to improve a lot. अभी 7 महीने में बहुत ज़्यादा कोई मैं बहुत अच्छा नहीं बन गई हूँ. But I would say that while I'm improving a lot with constant practice, but one thing that I do well is be there with my client 100%. And I think that is making the impact for me.
Absolutely. I think all things subscribed. From my personal experience, I didn't watch any of the videos. I am not a reader. I'm not a viewer. So now it's now that I'm consuming some of the fantastic content that's on YouTube about coaching methods and other stuff. For me, it was more or less Ekalavya's way of training. That I do it, and then I fail so many times that 500 hours I'm good.
Yeah.
So and in this particular space, specifically when you said that you do not exist, it's you and the client. That for me was the most fantastic piece of articulation there.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that is, I think so. The presence is what made everything made a difference, right? In everything. Yeah. So there is another part that I'm able to see that once you got a clarity on what it is like to be, basically understanding the concept and then translating that into action. You got a clarity in terms of first what is that concept about, and then translating into action.
And trying them. So because we are practicing each and every day, and I learned something and I'm trying them, then I'm like learning on my job. Like, oh, maybe that worked with this person, but this is not working with XYZ. So I would improvise, and I would see okay, these are some things that I should maybe negotiate upon or see depending on the person. But then these are the things that these are non-negotiable, and they need to be present in all of my coaching interactions. So I would learn, as Sunil also said, I did a lot of learning on the job, made mistakes, learned, kept learning. Because I had given very less time for myself. My classes were starting in October. So I was like, if I don't finish it by October, I will probably finish it after 1.5, 2 years, which I did not want to. So kept learning, kept making, journaling is super important. So I would journal.
Yeah.
And
So
learn from there. Yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of deep reflections I can see. So, just curious about when you were learning or when you were journaling, what is that one thing that or two things that you were trying to ensure that gets captured or gets reflected?
So I did not have anything that I would particularly want to write about, but I would just reflect on how did it go. and whatever first thoughts came into my mind would be there on the paper. Like, for example, I noticed the sparkle in my client's eyes when I mentioned this. So I would congratulate myself and I would write that was a brilliant catch. And if I would have missed that expression, or if I would have missed that word, I wouldn't have got to see that sparkle. And as coaches, that's what you live to do, right? So I would write about those. Then I would also write about missed opportunities. And sometimes you are like, so I would regurgitate on all of those things, and it would appear, oh my God, my client mentioned that, and I did not catch on to it. So thankfully, when we would have a next session, I would bring that point up and I would check with them. More often than not, they would say that no, it wasn't something important. But once one of my clients, they said that yes, it was. Thank you for reminding. It was about this, and the conversation totally went into another direction. So this is the importance of reflection. So even that one time when it made a difference, I felt very happy that at least I caught on to something which the client even didn't realize, and I didn't realize at that time, but we brought it again later.
Thank you.
Of course.
So, Sunil, I think I don't want to ask because I think
this is not a podcast where I am the host and I'm the only one asking. I think this is an open space. So I'm just the on-field facilitator. Everybody can bowl. I can only bowl 10 overs.
Yeah.
I love this conversation. So you're welcome to ask more questions if you want, Sandeep.
Yeah, and just looking at, so so there is a even a controversy about the method of reflection. I mean, people have different ways of reflecting. So there are people who listen to it, there are people who do a transcript and then work on it, and there are people who just don't do both of these. They just sit for 10-15 minutes and then they write down what has come. And so what worked for you?
So I did all of those because you're required to do those when you submit your transcripts and recordings. So when I would go through my recordings, a lot of new things would come, and I would make notes of them on the side. And even once I discussed with my mentor that, this is what I'm feeling about this recording. So do you want me to go ahead with it, or should I re-record, or should I just check with my client or whatever? And then the mentors were like, no, let's just go with it and see if your reflection is the same as what the mentor thinks. So those things definitely worked well. And transcript, say frankly, I did not gain a lot. So I would just close my eyes, put my AirPods on, and just hear the recording, or I would live that conversation again in my mind. So this time with a slightly different perspective, and that would give me different insights. And then I was like, okay, maybe I could have discussed this, or I could have asked that question instead of this question, or maybe asked it in a different way. And I would make notes. And then whenever I would have the next session with the client, I would try those approaches. The client wouldn't know the difference, but you are getting to know, oh, so if I ask this, the response was like this. So let's just continue this way with the client. So it's just trial and error, I would say. Like, try whatever works. End of the day reflections, they work the best for me. Like when I'm getting to bed, I would you typically read something, and then after I read, I would like to journal. Just write whatever, if I've had coaching sessions about that, or whatever my learnings have been, because I'm a lot into psychology, my course demands. So I love learning about how the human mind works, and I'm a zoology honor, so I know a lot of biology as well, so it kind of connects. So those reflections, they help a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah. So very interesting things, I think, because for me, the learning is that I haven't reflected this month. So maybe the other question is, so I hope I can, ask this before anybody else. Okay, Dhanashree has. So maybe just put the question to you and then we'll come back to Dhanashree.
Sure.
So you've had like a marathon innings in terms of this 7-month space, and then you're seeing 6-7 hours of coaching, or generally around coaching you're investing in a day. How much time do you have for yourself, as letting all things marinate? I come from a personal view on this because I also had that challenge to sort of say, like I was on a fifth gear for a lot of time. And for me, it was, and I did not really do any of these reflections. For me, this is like a whole new different syllabus that's coming outside. How do you find time for yourself? Because that was something that was very difficult for me.
Should we go to Dhanashree first?
I don't know. Dhanashree, over to you. Maybe you can ask a question and then Richa can choose.
Oh, no. I don't want to choose. Maybe let's just quickly answer your question first, since it's out there. So
Yeah.
Sunil, I think since it's my passion and I am so deeply driven by this desire that I want to be out there, help people. I have seen people struggle with anxiety, even mild levels of depression, and they were not even aware of it. They are juggling multiple balls at a time. And, I would see women in middle management. I was into middle management, I would say, when I was heading a branch. There were and thankfully I didn't have kids at that time to mention, not that I have them today, but yeah, those women, they were managing kids, they were managing household, and we were like frontline workers during COVID. So there used to be bankers' cars on the road every day, even if there was no other car. So we were like playing some other game altogether. So when I was stressed, I would talk to other female branch managers. They were like, "Oh my God, I don't feel like doing anything," or something like that. And I'm like, "Kuch to chal raha hai." And people are not aware. So I didn't do anything about it. But when I thought about all of those things, when I got my break after coming to the US, I was like, "Nahi boss, this is not how you're supposed to live your life. Like you are just living it for the heck of it. I don't want to do it, one. And second, I'm going to help individuals who create awareness first and then try taking them out of it. They cannot be living like this, and especially in Indian companies and in a developing country like us, the work culture is toxic. So I was like, I'm going to give them pro bono sessions. I am going to create awareness. I will do whatever the need is, but they need to come out of it. So that was the motivation. And now when you're driven by something which you can personally relate with, one, and second, you see the logic behind it and you see the greater service part of it, I did not feel the need to take time out for myself. This was me. I was feeling happy. Ki I'm learning, I'm moving towards that goal faster. And I think if that wouldn't have been there, it would not have been possible to do it in 7 months, not even in 12 months. So I think my time was learning. And even when I read something for my class or submit an assignment, even if I'm awake the whole night, I don't feel tired because I love doing it. It's all about psychology. It's all about how our beautiful mind works and how we human beings live together. So it's absolutely amazing. So I think passion, that's the keyword.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's been visible across the session. So, Dhanashree, over to you. Your hands raised.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. First of all, great meeting you, Richa. And before my question, I would love to welcome you in our community, as I am also an industrial psychologist. I've been in this
Wow.
9 years now. And another really relatable thing is I was in US for 8 years, and I know what you mean by being humble, because really it changes your life. And you're a different person, and that's a lovely experience. And
Did we lose you, Dhanashree?
sorry,
No.
I think we lost you.
I can hear. I don't know if it's only on the other side.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go on.
Yeah. So I was telling you about
you were in the US.
Yeah, and I did my master's there, and I totally know how it is, like how it becomes so difficult to manage all the things on your own, and how it makes you more humble, and letting go becomes your key. Because if you don't let go, you won't be able to survive. And I think that is really helping me out even in the coaching. So one question that was there in my mind, as I know a lot of things about psychology, I have been practicing also as a coach. Were you thinking about niche, or were you thinking about what should be your specialized area in those 500 hours? Because right now when I do that, when I take classes or when I record sessions, I keep on thinking whether there should be one direction, as I am also researching in the field of digital well-being. I usually feel like self-awareness and digital well-being would go in hand, and that's where I should focus. So that's what I want to know. Like, were you thinking about niche?
Yeah, I think it's a genuine concern that any coach in training would have, that what niche should I have, and should I have one or not, or should I keep it super broad? So I had all of those questions and I coined them in almost all of my training schools, I guess. And the best answer that I could relate to, I'll share that, was that you don't have to be very stringent or like very thoughtful about it. It will
Hmm.
come automatically, one. And
Hmm.
two, whatever it is right now, it is not set in stone. You can always change it. You can
Yeah.
always be dynamic about it. So and if there's a theme, you can find a theme, Dhanashri. Like my theme was like, if you heard my story, coming from a small town, going to a big city, then into a career which I never wanted, and then getting married, moving countries, pivoting jobs, so many things. So I thought there was a theme, one of a lot of transitions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can you hear me? Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, and second, I there was this theme of women managers, middle managers, as I said, that I wanted to help them. So you can make themes and then find the common denominator. So
Yeah.
that can be done. I didn't do that as of now, but I think I want to pursue something in that tone. I'm still trying to figure out. So I think we are all works in progress, and it's okay to accept that and acknowledge that.
Mhm.
And I gladly acknowledge that. So currently I'm working around transitions because I'm here in the US, but at some point of time I want to go back to India. So whenever I do, I think my focus will only be middle management and women. So the bottom line is, it's not set in stone. Do whatever feels right now, and then maybe 5 years, 2 years, 10 years down the line, you feel like pivoting into something else. Go ahead and do that.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Actually, I have another question. And
One.
how you were preparing for exams? Because, like, as I told you, like, I am so into application and conducting sessions. Uh, I think exam requires completely different mindset.
Mhm.
Actually, Dhanashri, I think before exam, I was fretting a lot and I was really nervous. Not nervous, I would say, but I was like concerned. Is there something that I'm supposed to do that I'm not doing? Why am I super chill about it? So that was the concern. But I think what came in handy was the competencies, the knowledge of the competencies, the hours. Because when you put in those hours, when you have interacted with people so many times and for so many hours, you gain a lot of perspective. So you didn't need, I mean, for me, I didn't need to kind of learn something or mug something up. Just
Hmm.
going through, and I spent just a couple of hours, although I had a lot of resources and Sunil helped me with a couple of them as well. But I
Mhm.
only could find time to, because my master's had already started in October and I appeared for my exam only in November. So I only could find time over the weekend, a couple of hours, and I just quickly browsed through the competencies. That helped, one. Second, remembering that you are whole and resourceful. What we say to our clients, what we believe for our clients, that's something we should believe for ourselves as well. So I knew that I had all the answers and I knew what it took to, what it would take to pass the exam, so that would happen. And third, even if it doesn't, even if I don't clear the exam, even if it doesn't happen, it's not on me. Like, as we say in coaching, it's not our responsibility to get the aha moments for our clients. It's for them, right? It's their responsibility. It's their job to reach there. We are just facilitators. So I was like, even if I don't pass, it's just $100. And in another month, you can take the exam. So it's not a big deal and it's not on me. So it doesn't take anything away from me or my coaching or my abilities.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely.
Most welcome.
So plus one on that space, specifically around if the exam doesn't go through, it's not that I am a bad coach, you are a bad coach.
Yeah.
It is just that you go to the exam feeling that you've given your 100%, and then whatever result comes through.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's about it. And I think being in touch with coaching definitely helps. That's a big plus. Yeah, but I don't think we need to fret about the exam. If you're
Yeah.
starting to fret, I think it's putting into motion so many things that internally you're questioning yourself. Am I good? Asking questions, asking doubts, and then doing a lot more research than is required. And suddenly you're putting
Yeah.
yourself in that rut. So going Virat Kohli and KL Rahul in the final. So suddenly you're putting yourself under a lot of questions.
Yeah. Absolutely. And a lot of people who have failed. So my mentor was telling me that a lot of people who have failed were only because, and they had one thing in common, which is like, I was so nervous. I was so nervous. She's like, only the nervousness and the anxiety kind of takes that away from you. But otherwise, if you are relaxed, there's no way you're not going to pass. And you only need passing marks. You don't need to top the exam.
Any other question, or maybe just on the time part? Is there anything that Richa you felt that you should have shared, but you have not yet shared?
I think the only thing that comes to mind, we've talked about so many things, is that I think if one has passion for being that coach, being that person in somebody's life who makes that difference or who makes that shift within, that person, I think you will sail through no matter what. And but if you do not, and even if you are an MCC, then you won't see that impact in your clients. So I think I am driven by those shifts in my clients or my coachees. And when I see that, I feel my life is successful or what I'm doing is successful or is bearing results. So the passion is the fuel that works for me. And I think that's what the profession needs, right? You'd have to have that willingness to be of service to others, and of course support is super necessary in our community, and I love the support that we all have within the community here, Sunil. So thanks to you. Support, passion, and the desire to lift each other up, that's amazing, and I think that's what drives me.
Absolutely amazing. So you're almost at the top of the mark. Anything else? Maybe one final question or one final comment or appreciation? I think the floor is open. Any acknowledgements for Rita?
Yes,
I think
Sunil, I have. Uh, Actually, you know what? I saw this post by Sunil in the group last night, and I was like, okay, I have to get up at 7 and I have to get up early because my friend said that we're going to go for a movie and he slept off. So I was like, okay, let me just, it's going to be, let me unwind. The week has been a bit, ups and downs it had, and I've not been studying so much for my exam, which I have to give. Let me just relax today. And I slept off at around 12:30. And I woke up at 9:30 thinking, what's there today? It's a Saturday morning and it's 9:30. Should I go back to sleep or is there something else? Then I like, oh, shit, I have a call at 11 or something. I'm sorry, at 10. And I have to attend to it. And I went, rushed, got my coffee and start for it. So it was worthwhile, I guess, waking up. Not I guess, it is worthwhile completely waking up and listening to such an inspiring journey and story. Thank you. Thank you so much, Richa.
Thank you, Rahul. That means a lot to me. Thank you so much.
That's a fantastic compliment. Getting that compliment first thing in the morning from Rahul, and maybe just before you go to sleep.
I think I'm getting inspired to be a better person in the morning.
Don't miss meetings in the morning. You
Usually,
never
it's
know
like
what's
I'm up
going to change
early
there.
and doing something like some chores or exercising or just relaxing in the balcony. But today I was like, okay, let me just take it easy. And suddenly something struck me that no, I should not miss it. And the coffee kicked in well and helped me stay through the journey.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so glad that you joined.
Most welcome, Richa.
Sandeep, Tarashri, Tarani, anything
yes,
you want to share?
So I think thank you, Richa. It's been great listening to you. And it gives us an opportunity also in one way to connect to you and ask you follow-up questions,
Of course, I'm always there. And as I said, support of the community means a lot to me. And I would love to be there in any form that I can. So please just think about me if you have any question.
Thank you.
Good.
Hmm.
You're welcome, Dhanashree.
Tani, I think we've not heard much from you. So
Yeah.
So yeah, apart from thanking Richa, I think we've had a nice long hour-long chat over the phone before we when I had reached out to her for this session. So it was really nice, Richa, for giving us those insights. But yeah, so I was just thinking if there is a kind of a document kind of a thing that you can just say, okay, these are my learnings from this 7-month journey, which, we're just 5 of us in the session. So there are quite a few of them in this group, Tribe of Coaches. So even if they haven't attended, they could probably, read through, not really the conversation that we had just now, but, your insights when it comes to the say for example one is the recording, two is the 500 hours and tips in to how to manage the 500 hours, and if you may want to say the 7-month journey is how did you achieve it, what would be that critical thing that what was the catalyst that drove you to get that 7-month achieve it in 7 months, because yeah, we've seen people 1.5 years, 2 years, and they for some reason either they're not they feel that they need more time, or they're not driven enough, they're more not motivated, or they whatever the issues are, people take a different time. So yours is probably the fastest in terms of certification, but this is a journey, so this is never going to end. But I'm talking about the certification part, right? And exam prep, like I can maybe give you like on the WhatsApp, like these subtopics where you can just give 2-3 lines, so that when all the people in the group just read through it, they'll get like a synopsis of your 7-month journey. Can we do that?
Sure. Yeah, sure.
So that's probably a great takeaway from the session. Thank you.
Of course.
Yeah.
You're most welcome.
So good then. So thanks, Richa, and I think thanks, Tharani, as well. I think for setting things up. For me, it was an experiment. Very, very honestly said. Because a lot of questions come my way saying, "Oh, why don't we have this? Why don't we bring this person? Why don't we bring this?" And usually, modus operandi is give them responsibility and say, if they're going to take it forward, my job is done. So thank you for making this happen, and essentially, I think a beautiful conversation. And I think also more than a conversation, I think I also understood the person that Richa is, and a wonderful addition to the entire tribe. And thank you so much for your time. I will close the recording here, but we can stay if you have time. We can stay and chat a little more. Thank you so much.
Thank you.